Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue with Darcey's story on 90 Day Fiancé. I am a therapist. Let's see if I have any interesting reactions to watching this TV show.
And that's hurtful to hear because, he does mean a lot to me, and I want to be in a committed relationship with him and take that next step to a possible proposal. Oh, you're so sweet. It's like you're waiting at the altar. Tom's taking me to a cricket lesson today. I'm really hoping that doing something he loves will move this relationship in the right direction.
So Darcey keeps saying these little comments, I'm not including all of them, where she is saying things like, oh, we're going to get married soon, or, oh, look at that, it's like you're waiting at the altar. Given the fact that he has been pretty clear that he wants to take things slow, I mean, not clear, but he's given communication that he considers this to be the very beginning of their relationship. And it's intuitive to most people that he's not super jazzed about talking about marriage right away. He's definitely not reciprocating that conversation with her. There's nothing wrong with Darcey wanting to get married at this point. Love is what it is. But you have to wonder what is going on with Darcey's defensive structure that is preventing her from noticing his discomfort when she says things like that, and or intuiting that it probably isn't a good idea to drop those kinds of statements. Is it a passive aggression? So a lot of people misuse the term passive aggressive when people will see passive behavior and they'll say that's passive aggressive, or they'll just see aggressive behavior that is annoying or kind of smarmy and they'll label that as passive aggressive. So let me give some examples. So a passive behavior that's not aggressive is when you want someone to pass the salt. You're eating dinner and you want someone to pass the salt. A passive thing to say is, boy, I sure wish my food was, had a little bit more salt on it. Okay, that's a passive behavior. You want someone to send the salt and you're passively asking for it by giving a message that your food is not salted enough and you're hoping that someone will read into that and pass the salt. That's passive. An aggressive behavior in that same situation would be to say, geez, you're pretty stingy with the salt over there. Okay, so that's just hostile. That's just aggressive because you're just putting someone down for no reason. Sometimes people call that passive aggressive, but if you're just flat out insulting someone, that's not passive aggressive because the person feels the hurt. Now, if you say, boy, I kind of wish my food was saltier, the key to passive behavior is a lot of people won't even detect it. It'll just go over their head because they'll be like, oh, well, if they want salt, they'll ask for it. They wouldn't just comment on the lack of sodium in their food. Or a really passive thing would say, boy, lately I've been kind of tired because I'm not getting enough sodium in my diet. That's really passive because then you're saying, because my food isn't salty enough and I wish you would pass me the salt. An aggressive thing to say, just flat out aggressive, is you don't pass the salt enough or you didn't salt this food enough. Okay, so that's just aggressive. Passive aggressive is to do something like later on, so you eat the food, you're upset about the fact that you didn't get enough sodium on your food and you actually blame someone else for that because they didn't pass the salt when you were hoping that they would. They didn't offer it. And so a passive aggressive thing would be later on when they come at you and they want to have a conversation or they want to have sex or they want to, this is a partner, and they want to have a conversation or they want to go out and see a movie. And instead you say, and you're still angry about the fact that your food isn't salted. And you say something like, well, I'm kind of beat because I didn't get enough sodium in my food during dinner. So in that instance, it'd be really hard for the person receiving that communication to know that deep down you're actually angry that they didn't pass the salt. It's so veiled, but it's aggressive, right? It's just like, no, I'm not going to go to a dinner with you. I'm going to withdraw from you and I'm going to give you the cold shoulder, which will hurt the person, but it'll be so obscured, so passive that it'll be completely unknown to the person why it's happening. That's what passive aggressive. Now there's a lot of gray zone and different people have different definitions, but in the clinical world, that's I don't know if those are great analogies, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say, is that there's a thing called passive aggressive. Now, when Darcey is saying those things, it could be considered passive aggressive. We would have to get to the bottom of that behavior and get to the bottom of Darcey's feelings. If Darcey were in therapy with me, we would explore her feelings, kind of walk through what would trigger her to say such a thing. Speculation, hard to know, but it's possible that deep down, Darcey is actually hurt that he was still dating recently, hurt that he doesn't want to marry her right away, and has a secondary emotion of anger around that. But because she grew up in a family system that didn't allow her to be angry, speculation, she has to be passively angry. She has to be she's hurt. She wants to express that secondary emotion of anger, but she doesn't have a way of doing it in a forthcoming way. And so she has to be passive about it. So she might be subtly attacking him by saying things like, "We're going to get married, right?" Or, "Ooh, you look like you're at the altar," because she knows that it bothers him and she wants to get back at him because she feels hurt that he doesn't want to get married to her right away. I don't know this. There's no way to know without talking with her. And if I did and she was a client, I couldn't talk about it on YouTube. But it is something that I've seen before, and it's something that a lot of times people are unaware of. If you ask Darcey, if we did find that she was being passive aggressive, if she were to find that for herself in a collaborative exploration with me, at the beginning of that exploration, she might not even recognize that she's being aggressive or that she's hurt, because the reason why people are passive aggressive and they go around the bush with that is because they grew up in an environment where they weren't allowed to be angry, and they were either physically abused or, I don't know, some kind of bad parenting experience when they expressed anger at a very young age, 2, 3, 4 years old. And women are generally made to feel this way more because little girls are considered to be bad little girls when they're angry, where boys are more allowed to be angry. Now, all children are overly shamed for their emotions, but boys in general, according to research, are shamed less for their anger. They're still shamed for their anger. But women are particularly shamed for their anger, and therefore will have more personality reasons to suppress anger, but the anger's still there and it's got to come out some way. And so that's why passive aggression is resorted to. And it's outside of their awareness a lot of times. So the cure for it, which is really hard to do, is to help them not be ashamed or afraid of their own anger and expressing it in a way that is functional. To just be like, "So, I just want to tell you, I'm angry." And also for spouses, maybe other men, to accept that and not to label it as, you're being a bee or you're being psycho, and to say it's okay when women are angry. It's okay for anyone to be angry. It doesn't mean anything scary. It just means that they're angry, and that's okay. Anyway, let's see what else happens.
Definitely want to meet Tom. Just want to make sure you're with the right person. I think we need to meet each other's loves, it's time. I mean, why don't you guys come to Albania? I mean, you guys are not that far away. Stacy is about to go to Albania to go visit her fiancé, Florian. They've been engaged for a little over 3 years. We both like foreign men. That's one thing we share. But Tom planned a special romantic getaway for us.
So in previous videos, I brought up the similarity between the two of them, at least in the 3 relationships we've seen with Tom, Jesse, and this other fella from Albania. We might speculate as to what sort of pattern is present there for both of the twins as to why that would be happening. Now, it's not unusual for people to have relationships with people overseas. It doesn't mean there's a pathology there at all, but it does raise some questions, as at least maybe to understand one's attraction. Even if we figured out factors as to why they would be attracted to men from overseas, it doesn't mean that they would have to stop that. Some people are attracted to short people or tall people or whatever, and we don't have to necessarily change that. You're attracted to who you're attracted to. But another speculation or another hypothesis that I might test out would be that their father, if he was foreign or had something that was similar to foreign men, like he traveled a lot or he was gone a lot, or something along those lines. That would just be an hypothesis about it. Again, even if we found that, it wouldn't pathologize it or shame it, just an interesting parallel there.
The beautiful islands of Gran Canaria. And I know it's a lot to ask Tom to change his plans to Albania, but I really feel like I need Stacy to confirm the fact that Tom and I are the right match. Stacy and I have a very close twin bond, and you know how she's meeting up with her fiancé, Florian.
So we're entering into a conflict where he invited her to go to some island, and now she wants to change the plans for them, I think, to go to Albania. So there's a potential conflict there. There's nothing wrong with Darcey wanting to do that. There's nothing wrong with Tom saying, I'd rather go to this island, just the two of us. I want to meet your twin sister, but just not yet. I want to do that. I'm guessing he might say something along those lines. Who knows? So nothing wrong with either position. That's the key part of this, is that when we watch things like this, there's a temptation to side with one person or the other, to be like, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong. And as if it's a competition or something. So that's one thing. And as a couples therapist, I'm often triangulated into these kinds of conflicts, and there is a pull to take a side, but that's not helpful. What is helpful is, for me as a couples therapist, to help people communicate so that, because one thing has to happen or the other, usually. I guess potentially they could do both trips, but maybe time constraints means that they can only do one. And so someone has to be disappointed, and that's just the way that it is. But how does a couple talk about that so each person feels heard and understood? How does each person take ownership of their own feelings? How do they love each other through that difference? If you've ever been in a long-term relationship, you can attest to the fact that there are inherent conflicts. Maybe even like the movie you watched tonight, or going on trips, or when you get married, or whether or not to have kids, or when to have kids, or how to parent your kids. These are almost inherently conflictual conversations or things that couples have to navigate. And again, no one is going to get what they want, because you have to be a part of an egalitarian system where both people get to win sometimes anyway, or accommodations have to be made. And so it's not about getting your way. It's not about giving to other people and letting them get their way. It's how you go through it. So let's see how they manage that.
Well, I thought instead of going to Gran Canaria, we can go meet up with them in Albania. Are you open to go?
I'm not used to changing the plans I want to make.
It's not a terrible opening to the conversation. We'll see how they go on from here, but it's not a fantastic response from him. There's nothing wrong with him saying, okay, I hear where you're coming. It's from him, if I was there, I'd be like, okay, Tom, that's great. You're not used to changing things, and I want to honor that. But can you also appreciate where she's coming from? You don't have to give in to what she's saying, but try to verbally empathize and appreciate where she's coming from. So he might say something like, okay, I'm not used to changing my plans, but I hear you saying that you really want me to meet your twin sister. You want me to change the plans because you know, and it's important to you, and it's important to me too. That kind of language, because until Darcey feels heard, it might be hard for her to accommodate his wishes or to walk away from a conversation like this feeling as though people understand each other. And from his point of view, I might ask him, okay, what does it mean to you to go to this island? What are the kinds of things you'd like Darcey to know that makes it so that you really, really want to go? Can you explain that? Because maybe in his heart, he's like, I've always wanted to go there. It's a very special place for me. I want to share that with you. I just want you and I to have some alone time because I really like you. What's going on there? Because without that, Darcey if this is as far as the conversation goes, or if this is all that the gist of the exchange, Darcey, given her past behavior, in all likelihood will go along with what Tom wants because that's her pattern, but she'll resent it on the inside. she won't resent it terribly, but she might resent it kind of. And then later on, when they're in a fight, she'll bring it up instead of them understanding each other and accommodating willingly, rather than just doing what other people want you to do because you're desperate for that attachment.
What do you know about Albania?
I don't know, it's beautiful, like Mediterranean-ish. I just thought it made sense to kind of all meet up there.
Do we have to?
That's not a good argument from Darcey's point of view. And this is what people do a lot of, is when they are asking for something emotional, they will try to make it logical. She says, I just thought it made sense that we would all meet up there. Well, to Tom, it doesn't make any sense, because I'm guessing, Tom isn't saying this, but I'm guessing that Tom really wants to spend time with her alone, and really wants to go to this island, and maybe he has some friends over there or whatever. He's not communicating that, which would be a good idea. Instead, what Tom is doing is he's kind of interrogating her. And this is a very common pattern that people fall into, where instead of talking about the emotions, they try to make their case as if they're in court and they're in a debate style of like, I have 5 logical reasons why we should do this. And the other person is like, I refute those logical reasons and let me lay out my logical No, that's not what's happening right now. Their logic has nothing to do. I mean, there's some logic to it, but to this debate, there's no logic. They can either go or they can go to either place. There's no scientific answer to that question. There's no logical answer to which one they're supposed to do. The only way to navigate it is through their emotions. And when they express understanding of each other's emotions, then when someone really understands you and empathizes with you, and they express their vulnerability about things, then you're much more likely to give in. The analogy I always give in couples therapy is, I was one time going on a road trip with a friend, and we were traveling, for many hours in the car. And this is before CDs and tapes and stuff. There was just the radio, or we were getting tired of our tapes. I don't know. But we would listen to the radio. And so, you do channel surfing, and over time, we would have conflict about, do we listen to this song or do we switch the song? What do we do? And we developed a system where we had a 3-tier evaluation. So a song would come on, and you had to identify for yourself if you were the lowest tier was like, I hate this song and I can't stand this song and I can't listen to it. And then there's a middle tier of like, well, I'm not in love with this song, but I can tolerate it, it's fine. And then there's a top tier of, I love this song, I need to hear this song. Okay. So both people, whenever the new song comes on, they evaluate, okay, which one am I? And then they express it. So if one person is like, I cannot stand this song, and the other person is like, I love this song, then you probably want to change it because, there's a lot of songs in the world to enjoy. And you don't want to put someone through utter pain for 4 minutes as they listen to a song that they absolutely hate, even though you really love it. That was the system we had. Whereas if you really loved it and the other person was like, not my favorite, but I can tolerate it, then you listen to it, and so on. And so there's not a logic to which song you're going to listen to. It's how does this song affect the person emotionally? You have to check in with yourself and express that, and then you negotiate because you care. Now, I love this song. Oh, but you really hate it. And for you, this song, you can't live. You'd have to jump out of the car door because you hate this song so much. I don't want you to go through that. So let's change it, even though I like this song. Whereas if you just talk about the logic, so imagine a song comes on and someone's like, this song is empirically stupid and no one should be listening to this song. Well, the other person might be like, this is my favorite song. Or no, they wouldn't say that. What they would say is, this song is a good song. Critics, have claimed that this song is an excellent song. Everyone loves this artist. So you're making a case. But both people are going to debate that. They're going to be like, well, critics don't know anything about music, or the people who like this music are stupid. And you end up fighting about those things rather than owning your emotions, being vulnerable, communicating them, and then, because then you're on a whole other level, because people care about each other. And when you give people your emotions, it gives them a chance to engage their heart rather than their head, if that makes any sense. And then it just feels better to like, oh, Tom, this has always been a dream of yours to go to this island, and you really want to spend alone time with me. That's why you want to go to this island. Oh, well, I kind of get it now in my heart. That makes it so much easier for me to accommodate you in this way, that kind of thing. So let's see how this conversation continues.
If I hadn't have flown out to Gran Canaria and organised what I'd organised,
I know, I'm sorry.
I'd had planned for a really lovely romantic getaway to Gran Canaria.
Again, he's just making a data point. I had made plans. Well, no duh. But how do you feel about it? What are your emotions about it? Give her a chance to take care of you. That's the point.
I wanted to show her a beautiful, beautiful time, something like she'd never had before.
Okay, again, that's getting in the direction. I wanted to show her a beautiful time, something she'd never had before. It's kind of it kind of alludes to a feeling inside of him, but it's still debatable, and I'm guessing doesn't motivate her.
I really appreciate what you've done. Decided to go to a romantic beachy vacation. Who wouldn't want that? It's just Stacey and I want our guys to meet, 'cause I want my sister to know that I'm happy.
If we stay there, we need to stay in a suite.
Yeah, I agree.
They're doing an okay job. Definitely Jesse and Darcey would have had a much harder time, I'm guessing, with this conversation. Tom is being accommodating, it sounds like. I wonder how Tom really feels about this on the inside. So we'll see how that plays out.
Then we'll do it.
Okay, so wow, a lot better than Jesse and Darcey did in situations like that. Maybe that's a sign of a lack of train wrecks to come. Now, as I always have to say, I can't diagnose from afar. The depictions in this show could be completely distorted. Also, become a patron of the podcast by going to patreon.com. That's how I know you like what we're doing. The more patrons there are to the podcast, the more time I can take away from my regular job and make reaction videos like this. So please do that. Also, subscribe, hit the bell below. I've been told I'm supposed to tell you that because that's a YouTube thing. And also another YouTube thing is comment below.
From an Englishman's point of view, you think of Albania and you think of communist country. Is it really romantic? No, it's not. For me, maybe going to Gran Canaria would have been the better option. But I think it's really important for me to meet the sister. So I'm going to Albania and just see what happens.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like he's fully on board with it, which is fine. Given his subdued nature, I wonder if that is the tip of the iceberg, and deep down he is hurt and angry that his wishes weren't accommodated for and that he wasn't understood. He didn't help her because he didn't help her to understand how he felt about it because he didn't really express it. It's hard to know how he feels about things. I'm guessing that he is disappointed, but anyway, we'll see how things turn out.
Just, are we just gonna, cuddle forever?
Sorry.
Tom and I have not been intimate yet. I'm ready for some passion. We've always kind of had it over the phone.
Okay, so that statement, are we just going to cuddle forever, it alludes to a lower hidden request or feeling that she wants to have sex soon. This is, at the very least, passive. You could almost call it passive-aggressive, but it's probably easily detected by him, and so I don't know if I would call it clinically passive-aggressive. Passive-aggressive behavior, there's actually a whole clinical area that I still use called passive-aggressive personality disorder. It's no longer in the DSM, but it was for many decades, and I wish they would have retained it. But anyway, the behavior to this personality, and if you want to learn about passive-aggressive personality disorder, become a patron of the podcast, and you'll get instructions on how to listen to that full episode, because it is a very common personality disorder that a lot of people don't recognize. It's really hard to recognize. And one of the things that some people will do with that personality disorder is they will, for example, cheat on their partner as a way of getting back at their partner, but they'll never tell their partner that they're cheating. Or they might write in a journal really negative things about them, like lots of negative things, but they'll never share their journal with their partner. So, or they might rifle through their personal things while they're not looking, but never tell the person that they did this. Or they might rearrange their office to kind of screw with them, but never tell them that they did it. So it's aggressive in that it's hostile and mean to do this, but it's passive in that it's completely unknown to the person that it's even happening. That's sort of classic passive-aggressive behavior. Usually in the clinical world, when we use that term, it's because, or at least in my clinical circle, it's because it's so passive and the aggression is so needing to be suppressed by the person that the aggression will come out in this really roundabout way, so much so that the other person can't detect it. In this instance, Darcey is like, so are we just going to cuddle forever? It's pretty detectable to him, and thus I wouldn't label it necessarily passive-aggressive. I might label it passive. I might label it not very healthy communication, more healthy communication, because in that is a little bit of contempt and a little bit of criticism, and then that instantly puts Tom on the defensive. Rather than Darcey saying, look, I understand that you want to take it slow, but I really want to have sex because it's really meaningful to me. And so, if we could kind of speed that along, that would really make me feel better. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Now, Tom could come back and say, well, I appreciate that and I hear that, and I still want to take it slow because it's just kind of my style of relationship. It usually goes better when you can be more direct and own your feelings, and then when someone owns their feelings and they're direct with you, you take care of them. Tom would take care of her feelings and be like, okay, I totally get that. I could see how it might feel rejecting to you and hurtful that I don't want to have sex very soon. And I get that. I'm really sorry about that. And I care about you and I don't want you to feel that way. And I still want to kind of take it slow because of my feelings, blah, blah, blah. I hope you understand that. Then they can, because what Darcey is probably feeling right now isn't that she wants to have sex, although that's probably part of it. More of it is probably that she feels insecure attachment-wise, that she is equating the fact that we haven't had sex yet means that he's not really into me. And if we have sex, then that will alleviate this insecure feeling I'm having. I think I have cat hair on my face. It's itching me. And because they're in the beginning of a relationship, it would be normal to be a little uncertain as to where this is headed. Darcey feels that feeling, and she's probably really latching on to, well, if he has sex with me, then this feeling of insecurity and fear will go away. It likely won't result in that. Maybe a little bit, but not a lot. A lot of preoccupied people, I don't know if she's preoccupied, but a lot of preoccupied attachment style people will do this kind of thing. They feel chronically abandoned and chronically rejected. And so they look for things to solve that problem rather than realizing that they have a lot of healing to do through secure attachments to just bring down that assumption of abandonment and rejection and hurt. But without knowing that, they just look for reasons and like, well, if that were different, then I wouldn't feel this way anymore. When in reality, because of their relational traumas in their past, they will always feel that way until they heal from that. Anyway, let's see how they deal with this.
You have to find a way to get the pajamas off.
Oh, true. Does that mean you're not ready yet?
Well, it's not a decision. It would just happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel a little insecure. Maybe I need to pull back emotionally.
So whenever they go to these interviews, it's just Darcey or Tom by themselves. They often will say the right thing in those interviews that they should be saying when they're in person. She's saying in the interview, when Tom's not around, I'm feeling a little insecure right now. That'd be a wonderful thing for her to say right now. I'm feeling a little insecure. And I'd love it if you could hear that and help me with that. And then Tom could address the insecurity rather than this weird debate about whether or not they're going to have sex. He could be like, oh, I'm sorry you feel insecure. Let me help you with that. Let me give you a hug, or let me tell you that I really like you, and I like a lot. I feel a vibe, and I want to see how this goes. Also, could we kind of take sex a little bit more spontaneously? I wish the interview discussion would happen in front of people.